Now, I'm super excited because we have a CMO in. I love getting the CMO's perspective from Matt and what goes on behind the scenes, from the brief to the insight. So we're going to cut to the ad straight away. So this is the Adtopsy, and this is the latest from Heartland.
The science of advertising.
For years, we imagined the places we'd go, the moments we'd share. But since we retired, we thought we'd never be able to afford these things. But Heartland Bank found a way to turn someday into today. Unlocking the equity in our home with a reverse mortgage didn't just change our finances, it changed our life.
Beautiful work, Matt. Like, one thing we were just talking about in the green room just before is that when you see an ad, you don't know what goes in behind the scenes. You don't know the brief. You don't know the constraints. So I'd love to hear your perspective. Like, what was going on for Heartland? How did this come about?
Yeah, so this was actually our first big brand campaign for Heartland Bank Australia. So this was our first foray into doing an ad completely from scratch, where we took a step back and went, what are people actually buying a reverse mortgage for? What do they care about? And instead of starting from a creative space, I sometimes worry that you can get a little bit lost in creative if you don't start with data and understanding of the customer. So that's really where we started, to understand the emotional drivers behind why someone would want to take out a reverse mortgage.
So was there an insight or a data point or something this concept was leveraged?
Yeah. So our research, and we did some qualitative and some quantitative research where people rejected the idea of a reverse mortgage before they'd actually understood what it was. So the purpose of this ad was actually to create that permission. So get them to want to understand a little bit more. It wasn't a heavy product sell. It was really opening the door and inviting them to learn a little bit more.
So this is more of a category job than a Heartland job. Is that what you were looking to do?
Yeah. So we had to do a little bit of both, but the biggest piece there is the category. There is a huge opportunity in the category, but less than 1% of the equity in over 60s is actually being utilised. So there is a huge opportunity there for people to unlock a better life by using the equity in their home. So
then for yourself and Heartland, are you looking to like grow the category? Because that seems like the biggest opportunity, and then anchor your brand to the category? Is that?
Yeah, so Heartland Bank Australia is the leading provider of reverse mortgages in Australia. So we are that category leader. So it is on us to grow that category and educate people about that category.
Very good. Now, can you talk to me about some of the challenges and constraints? Like, because I know Heartland in New Zealand has been quite the institution. I know in Australia it's had various shapes, forms and structures over the years. And I think it was 2 years you actually consolidated into a bank. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So Heartland Bank in New Zealand has been around for 150 years.
Yeah, wow.
Heartland Bank Australia, we became a bank in 2024.
Yeah.
Our biggest product is reverse mortgages. So that is our lead
hero product.
That is our hero product, and that's what we lead with.
Yeah.
So I have been in the role for less than 12 months. This is our first head of marketing role that we've had at Heartland Bank Australia. So stepping in and looking at the category and going, how do we actually grow the business? If you went out on the street and you asked 10 people, what is a reverse mortgage? I think you probably get 10 different answers.
Yeah, right.
So that was probably that first job there, that we start with understanding and then we move into the motivation and then the product.
So was that the brief? Like, what was the actual brief for the ad?
Yeah, it was to change the narrative. So what we found was that people heard the words reverse mortgage and they rejected the idea. So the idea and the brief behind this was to create a space where it wasn't rejected just from the name.
Got it.
So create that opportunity.
Yeah. And then in terms of the actual execution, I know this was something that impressed me, that majority of this was in-house and you'd driven it. And I know in-housing agency, it's always an interesting topic. So can you just talk me through like probably some of your constraints you may have had and then how you just went about it?
Yeah. So I had a very limited time to get this to market.
Yeah. What's a limited time?
We started the concept of the ad in November, and it was in market at the end of Feb.
Wow.
So, which, if anyone knows how long it takes to actually produce an ad, that's
the best time to be producing assets as well, because that's where everyone's available.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Oh, wow.
So, September, October, we spent hours and weeks going through the data and the insights and the understanding that we could find before we even looked at creative. So creative came at the end around once we understood the customer, the insights and the why, then the narrative kind of fell into place. So that's where this...
Well, huge credit, because I go like... ballpark numbers, I'd go 80% of what I've been exposed to. The creative agency, usually they don't actually have an insight or something profound. It's very loose, the briefs. And I go, great quality work starts with the great brief.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, what we're talking about, the CMOs need to shape great briefs because that's actually where great work starts. And it usually needs an insight or a perspective or an angle that you're looking to own. So like, I think that's really powerful and profound, but is this a starting point for you or where is this in the journey?
It is. So this is the start of that understanding. So if we can shape the narrative around what could retirement look like for our older Australians in 2026, this started with data and insight into what are people actually using a reverse mortgage for. So
So what are they using it for?
45% of them are using it for renovations. So the very first scene that you see is someone renovating their kitchen. So we wanted to start with real life scenarios that everyone can relate to and go, that is on my bucket list. The next stage of this is around the actual customer stories and really understanding what people are doing with it.
Yeah.
So more case study kind of work, more narrative led around the real stories that how we're helping people unlock a better life.
Yeah, because that's what my read was. It's social validation, which is social proof. So I want other people in the herd, we're a herd animal, that are already doing it, embracing it and leveraging the product. And that feels like the playbook here. And it feels like that's the direction you're heading.
People want to see people like them using the product.
Yeah.
So if you start to think about, is this product for me? You want to see yourself in those scenarios and in those ads. Now,
question for you on the actual asset. Looking at now, is there anything you'd do differently if you'd do it again?
There are a couple. I think we spent a lot of time going over music and lines and things like that at the end, but that is because the core narrative I wouldn't change.
Yeah.
But there's probably tons of creative decisions that I would second guess. And
mate, I think any ad that you finish, you never actually fully content with. But mate, really, really great job. Love the asset, love the direction, love what you're standing for. Now we got Peter Pynta. Pete from Neuro Insights, 20 plus years in advertising. Deep study, we're using EEG to understand where memory forms throughout assets. I think you've analysed over 2,000 ads plus. Pete, your perspective on the actual asset.
Yeah, JR. Look, I think the first time I saw that ad and when you shared it with us was like, wow, that ad has to do a lot of heavy lifting. Matt is nodding and agreeing, but like just looking at it because of the category, I guess because I didn't really know much about the category or, how do I get in? Should I get in? That type of thing. As well as when I mean heavy lifting, it's got a brand and you've got to own the narrative. What I found always find fascinating is the story behind the story, which is what you're unlocking with Matt right now. And that is that like that's my immediate impression. So the intrigue becomes, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How big's the market? And to really, I guess, empathise and understand the fact that you're on the threshold of what is potentially a huge category.
Totally.
So we're not talking about hamburgers or cars or bank loans necessarily. We're talking about educating, which is why I say heavy lifting. You're educating, you're forming a narrative, and crucially, you want Heartland Bank to come along for the ride and never, suffer from that classic case of brand leakage to a competitor who is also offering a product. And so it's an education piece, it's a brand piece, it's forming a narrative which you would hope to own and be yours intrinsically. And when you think about that, there's not many categories on the planet that advertise but have that opportunity to cross that threshold to own the narrative. And as a category leader, it's almost incumbent upon you to do that. So it's a huge responsibility, huge brief, huge narrative.
Yeah, but
pretty exciting.
A huge opportunity as well. And like just from my perspective, like I've been in direct response forever and a day. Like looking at this is really, I'd go a brand response ad.
Definitely.
Just looking as soon as opening scene, you see logo, brand comes up straight away. So if there's any moments of memory form, you don't have a question mark, or it's all the heavy lifting it's back. I'm not sure if you want to talk to that at all, Pete.
Sure.
In your experience.
Well, and again, I think the second thing I noticed was when it branded.
Yeah.
And congrats that the ad brands immediately.
Yeah.
And that's really important because you simply don't want to risk forming a narrative, forming a great ad, but who was it for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congrats at doing that. And the more that goes on, I think the better. And the more you will own the narrative and the category and the space and the story. So, in fact, the reverse, of course, is the biggest killer of advertising effectiveness. And that is that comment, great ad, but who's it for? Or I don't understand the concept, or I don't understand. So hence that ad has a lot of heavy lifting to do, but it's on its way.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you, Matt, and the team. It feels like you've got base now. It's like, what does it look like from here? So yeah, huge congrats to you and the team.
Thank you. This was definitely the foundational layer of that brand story.
Yeah.
So to your point about brand leakage, there was a lot of discussions about where to place the logo and how much of this was a brand play and how much of this was a category play. We lent more towards category play and tried to tread that line of we want to keep the branding present but not overpowering.